I'm Katrina McCombs with the Camden City School District. Today, we'll talk with the superintendent about how the 2014-15 school year has gone, what lessons he's learned, and what he's looking forward to in the upcoming school year. Superintendent, thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Let's start from the beginning of the school year. What were you hoping to accomplish in 2014-15?
So before I answer that question, Katrina, I want to first congratulate you. For those of you who haven't heard this news, but Katrina is going to be leading all things academics and school support, so she's going to be leaving her role as the Director of Early Childhood. So huge congratulations to you, and we're lucky to have you serving in that capacity as a leader in the school district.
Thank you. I look forward to the work.
So how do I think the 14-15 school year went?
Yes.
I think it was a really good year. I think that we made a lot of progress, and at the same time, we've got a lot of work to do. But as I go and visit all of our schools across Camden, I can see the progress. I can see the sense of hope and optimism across our educators, across our students, and our families. We were hoping to accomplish a lot of things, but really moving forward our strategic plan. So we created this strategic plan with a lot of community input. It's called the Camden Commitment. There are 5 key promises in it as far as student safety, 1, better facilities, higher quality instruction, parent engagement, and then 5th, making sure the central office delivers on all those things. And so we wanted to move that plan forward, and then secondly, just make sure that more and more students are getting to the finish line, graduating from high school, prepared for a college or a career. Those were really the 2 big things for us.
Okay. So you've also built a lot of relationships in the community. As you've been building those relationships, what have you been hearing from our community residents?
That's a good question. I mean, we have really been, as you mentioned, focused on building trust, building relationships, empowering families, and we've done a number of different things. We have community school coordinators every school. We go door to door and do a lot of personalized outreach. You and I have gone door to door to help enroll more pre-K students into our schools. And all those conversations, I would say that the common thread is that families want the best for their kids. Some have access to better information than others insofar as how to best support their students. And our job is to be a safety net and to make sure that that information is readily available to them so that ultimately they're empowered and they know how to drive decisions inside of their student schools to best support their kids.
Absolutely. So in that same vein, can you talk a little more about the work you've done with parents to advance parent engagement?
Sure. So we have a community school coordinator in every school, which wasn't the case before my appointment. We've done a lot of things during public meetings to make sure that we have better attendance and that those parents are supported. So for example, we have interpretation equipment for the first time ever. So for our non-native speakers, it's a huge, huge resource to them so that they can have the translation equipment right there. We've gone door to door, as I just mentioned, and being able to have that personalized discussion and to better understand what families need by meeting them where they are. A lot of different initiatives. We have 3 new parent centers. I mean, this has really been one of our biggest priorities over the last 2 years.
Got it. Another big announcement this year involved expanding Renaissance partnerships. Can you talk a little bit about how you got to the decision and then what impact you feel it will have on the next school year?
It's a really good question because it's such a complicated topic. With Renaissance schools, we had dozens and dozens and dozens of conversations, but most notably we had 4 large town halls to go out and solicit input insofar as Renaissance schools being our partners to help transform existing schools that were not just struggling academically, but also just had a lot of challenges with their facilities and had seen declining enrollment. And ultimately what I'll tell you is there were droves of families who were thrilled about that decision. And there were also other families that responded with a lot of concern and anxiety and didn't necessarily agree with it. And so for us, ultimately, moving forward with that decision has to do with incremental change isn't good enough in schools that we just believe really needed that additional support. It was us basically raising our hand and saying, we're not going to be able to significantly renovate this building to better position that school to be successful in the long run unless we take a dramatic decision like this. And so that was really the bottom line for us, and just knowing that our kids only get one shot at their education. And if we don't take that dramatic action now, you're not going to have that opportunity down the road.
Absolutely. Excellent. So now that 2014-15 is coming to a close, how do you think it went?
Well, I would say that if you look at the Camden Commitment and the 5 promises we made, we checked off a lot of boxes. There are a lot of initiatives that we set as a goal and we moved forward on. And whether it was the 3 parent centers that we opened, the coaching and support we're providing our teachers and our principals, we made a lot of progress. But at the same time, like I said earlier, we still know there's a lot of work to do, and that we need to ensure that all of our students are on their way to be able to graduate from our public schools with a choice of whether or not they want to enroll in college or find a meaningful career. And we still have a lot of work to do on that front.
Absolutely. So you started out this school year talking about safety a lot and the quality of school buildings in Camden. Has there been any progress in those specific areas?
I'd say there's been a lot of progress on safety, namely with our partnership with Camden County Police Department and the Safe Corridors program. We've also started a pilot to promote to incentivize positive behavior in our schools, and that's PIBSIS, which is in about 5 or 6 of our schools now, and that's a partnership we have with the mayor and her team. And as far as the quality of our school buildings, we have made a lot of progress here, and I'm particularly pleased with this because there will be 3 new ground-up construction projects happening in the city. There'll be 4 schools through a partnership with the Renaissance schools that are going to be renovated. And arguably, most importantly, given the significance to the city and the connection to the community, is the Camden High renovation project,
Absolutely.
which I believe will ultimately far exceed the financial commitment that we initially shared of $50 million. I think it's going to be far, far greater than that. And that's a long time coming.
And that is definitely exciting news.
Your alma
for
mater,
the
of
community.
course. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, I'm holding back my excitement about it, but that is something that the community I know has looked forward to for a long time. So moving on to the next question, how are district schools getting better?
Well, they're getting better, I would argue, in 3 significant ways. We are providing more regular and better professional development for our principals. So they're meeting with us every 2 weeks, and they have a lot more support than they used to. And so in some respects, we're more hands-on and supporting them. In other respects, we're actually pulling back and giving them the space, the autonomy they need to run their schools. Secondly, we're providing, again, more consistent and better professional development for our teachers. So through better support to our school leaders, the teachers are now getting regular weekly observation and feedback sessions, and that's huge because that wasn't happening in Camden for a very long time. And then thirdly, where our schools have needed additional resources, we have done everything we can, in spite of some systemic challenges here, to make sure that those schools receive those supports. So we put in just one example, we put in 2,300 new laptops into our schools.
Will more families be able to send their child to a great school next year?
I believe so. I believe so. I do believe that our schools are better off today than they were before my appointment, and we've still got work to do to make sure every single school is meeting that bar of excellence. And so it's slow and steady progress in some cases, and I do believe we'll see some transformational changes in other cases. But we're going to continue to push the work forward with a sense of urgency and hope to continue to see progress.
Excellent. So we're going to shift gears just a little bit in our line of questioning here. This year was not as dramatic as last year in terms of the staffing situation, but changes still had to be made. Talk a little bit about what the process is like and what kind of shape the district is in looking forward to the future.
Well, the process, let me just first say, is not a lot of fun.
Right.
And at the same time, it's a process that I take very, very seriously. We all take in our central office very, very seriously insofar as making sure that there's as little impact to people as possible. And for us this year, we did have a revenue shortfall that had to simply do with aligning our resources to the number of students we'll be serving. And so in spite of that challenge, we actually, as you just mentioned, came out in a very, very good place. Ultimately, we're talking about a handful of classroom teachers were impacted as opposed to last year where it was a lot more than that. And so going forward, what I can tell you is we are now, thanks to the really hard work and the proactive planning over the last 2 years and the tough decisions, because again, the people impact here is real and I'm really sensitive to that. We're in a much more stable place as a district. And we don't anticipate large scale layoffs like we saw in my first year. And so I'm optimistic. It's not to say that there are, I can just guarantee there won't be any challenges down the road, but
Right.
again, we are far, far more stable, and we don't anticipate those types of dramatic shifts like the first year.
Okay, thank you. So just stepping back a little bit, looking at the year differently, what did you learn this year? Just leaving it open, what did you learn this year?
You know, I learned about the importance of building trust. I learned about how critical it is to build relationships with the families, with community leaders, with those who don't always agree with you, because there's a lot that you don't know as a leader. And you have to sometimes roll up your sleeves and have those one-on-one conversations to best understand the impact of your policies. And that's something that I personally value, our team really values. I know it's something you very much value, and I've seen you exhibit that type of leadership. And so just in those one-on-one conversations, there's so much you can glean as far as what some of the shortcomings are in our schools and what we need to address in the central office.
Okay, thank you. So what are you most proud of?
You know, on the other side of that coin, I would say I'm proud of the fact that we've built those relationships. I'm proud of the fact that we've taken a deliberate approach to really build trust and to show that we're not just going to lock up in the central office and make decisions willy-nilly, but that we're going to go out and engage and empower our residents. And at the same time, I'll acknowledge that we've made certain decisions that not everyone in the community has agreed with. I do believe they've fundamentally been in the best interest of children, but at the same time, we have taken on those conversations where not everyone has agreed with us and tried to find middle ground in other areas. And again, that goes back to building trust. And I think we've made a lot of progress in terms of developing those relationships, because again, what I don't know, I don't know.
Right.
And so we're going to continue to focus on that.
Absolutely, I appreciate your transparency and sharing there, because we've all got a lot to learn on both sides
Sure.
of it. So are there areas where you hoped to make more progress than you have so far when you look back and reflect?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, we've talked a lot about what's been going well. I'd say a continued challenge for us is curriculum.
Yeah.
And developing curriculum is really, really hard work. It doesn't happen overnight. And we do have a team of individuals who have been focused on righting the ship here and getting us on course and making sure that the curriculum is set up to be successful for our students and staff next year. And I think that we're in a better place than we were last year. But it's been a continued challenge. But excited to have that conversation with our educators to help us roll it out and implement it.
Absolutely. So are there any memorable moments that will stay with you when you look back on this school year?